Since we have our typical audience in attendance.
Well, the crowd and group.
For the May 2nd, 2023 work session of the Lower Sauber Township Supervisors, please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. One nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. With that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Doug Jones.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Update on projects. Program. Missions are all but complete. There may be just a few stragglers here. But, waiting for confirmation from Keystone Lighting, and so I think we're just about completed on that. At least on the installation side. There's still the controls, that project to be installed, getting all that up to speed so we can monitor and get everything else that we paid for.
Just your lighting comment made me think of one. Mike, did the shopping center where the Wawa used to be, now Laura's shopping center? Do you notice around, if anybody's noticed the lighting? I don't know if they reinstalled or changed the lighting at the corner of the property. So when you're coming down or coming east on Main Street, you're basically blinded by these two spotlights they have up on the one standard down there. I don't know if they came in for a permit for that or if they updated their lighting.
They might have switched over to LED. I'll look into it.
Right.
We had a similar occurrence at 285 Maple, where they, I believe they replaced the incandescent with the LED, which traveled a whole lot.
And there's no shields, there's no nothing on it, so
Right.
it's, I don't know if anybody else has noticed that.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, but it's, I think it's the angle that they put the lights at, that it's, you know, they're trying to get their whole parking lot, and in doing that, they get all the way across the street.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
There's a
Had
few
a problem not
properties
saying
that like that.
half the code. They had. Yeah. Just.
That one was in the middle between the two entrances. This is the one at the very corner of the intersection. And they may have chosen not to replace that, just to put one really bright set of spotlights up there, so.
While you're out checking, corner of Quarry and Main. Matrix, I think it's 280.
Yeah, the Matrix,
It's like they have wall packs that are LEDs now that direct right out into the roadway. So if you're out checking, those should be either turned down or have cutoffs put on.
Okay.
Your name.
sorry.
That's right.
He's been driving around.
Right.
The Oliver Road, Park Avenue basement, for construction with CKS contractor Ari Pearson in Conservation District. So that work is scheduled to start mid-May. Got a tight window with that because of the grant funding and making sure we have everything completed so we can get our reimbursement for the grant. See,
Is that a possibility? Do we need to ask for an extension on that if we're gonna be underway before it ends, or do you think we'll be all right?
I know that we had requested it, guessing we could not get it. They are very confident.
Okay.
base repair contract, associated paving contractor will be scheduled to start the week of May 15th. So the affected roads are this section of Culp Road on the Franconia side of Yoder, Root Road, Moyer Road, and Landis at this point, maybe some additional depending on funding. 2023 Arley grant. Last meeting I misspoke and I told you that there were two potential projects. The one project was the Oak Drive right turn lane. That really needs some more preliminary work before we submit for a grant. So we're not submitting for that project or under this funding stream. We're just going to go for the bike lane, the pavement markings assigned, and also the raised pavement markers on Indian Creek Road. So the scoping form was submitted for that. So we're waiting to hear from PennDOT to give us a yes or a no, what's an appropriate project, and then we'll proceed with the actual grant application first. We did receive a signed agreement for our traffic signals technologies grant. So now we can proceed with the traffic counts, and this is for the adaptive system along Main Street. So that was important to get that so we can get traffic counts done before school gets out. So we have accurate information to implement that system. Just some department activities. We met Corey staff regarding the improvements that they've made on their site. And some of the things that they've done or will be doing. They're going to begin paving some of the interior roads. The asphalt plants are opened up. They also got permission from DEP to use millings on some of their interior roadways, and all roads as well. So that'll help reduce the dust in the road that's being accumulated and drug out onto the road. And they've also purchased a new state-of-the-art sweeper that they'll be dedicated at the site. So all that is helping to improve the situation there.
I noticed more activity there, Doug. One question, I don't know if a sweeper has a certain timer, but the one thing I did notice is just twice huge line of traffic, just from coming from I guess where Groff's turns to the right there, you know, Indian Creek continues good from there between you know, just going down to Sturgis. Like it took me about 4 minutes just to get there. It was just a sweeper going by. So I don't know if that's going to be a regular thing or not, but that's something that maybe we should be aware of just in case. I saw it twice. It was on my way to Walmart back.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we want them to sweep the streets, but I'm not sure
Exactly.
how to control that.
Okay.
And not allow traffic. We'll have that conversation with them. Maybe it's just that
It might
whether
be
it's an opportunity just to pull off and let traffic go by, you know, until the queue.
What time of day was it?
I would say it was during the day, like I mean like 9:30. So
But it wasn't during peak rush hour traffic, at least.
not while I was
Okay.
driving there. I don't,
Yeah.
and again, this is something that we should be aware of. It's something that continues to happen. And again, I thought, okay, it could have just been whatever, but when I came back the second time, it was still a line of traffic. I mean, it took about 4 minutes and that's like 2 bucks. And it might not be a regular thing. It could have
There's
been-
something that they. Full swing. Completed the tree removal of Pressman Road. Spent time yesterday, today, and cleaning up after the storms over the weekend. We had up 2.5 inches of rain, so we had a significant rainfall. We're gearing up for projects. And also in front of you, I have a list of miscellaneous items and used equipment to be sold through municipal bid. All of these are valued at less than $2,000. So if you recall back in January, passed a resolution for a process to for us to sell those, no further action by the board. Actually, it's, you know, approval of the manager, I think, the resolution. So just wanted you to be aware of what we're doing and the items that we will be getting rid of.
My only hesitation is selling a race car spring rider that might be broken. Other than that, I'm good with the list. If it's broken, we should just dispose of it. That's my thoughts.
Understood. No, that's fine. I don't know exactly what. How significant. the
Yeah.
break is. So
It's
I'll
a
take that.
safety issue and that piqued my interest.
And the nickels were good for it, just, yeah.
Dispose.
Understood.
But there are people who buy those things as collector items to display rather than for, yeah, we could sell it not for reuse, just for display.
Basement ornament.
Right.
Thank you for compiling this list of Doug. That's it.
Sell it to a barber shop. Barbecue.
Yeah. It is a good list. And again, I know you don't have to share that with us.
From last item I have for you. A proposal from utility locators. Sure you understand that, you know, we are obligated to mark all of our facilities under the PA1 call law. Unfortunately, we only have storm sewers and traffic signals to be concerned with. Traffic signals are our biggest liability exposure just because if somebody hits the electric and the signal goes down, there's an accident, so there's a concern. That's generated concern by our signal contractor who used to do our markouts for our traffic signal. They will no longer do them. Prior to them saying no, it's an insurance issue with them, so it's obviously it's a liability exposure for them. The Before when they were doing it, it would cost us about $400 per markup, and then time and materials type of work. So they would come out and they would mark it, and then we would rely on their markings. The challenge that we have is that we don't have accurate information, and we do all of our own one calls. We're doing them except for the traffic signal where we would rely on the contractor. Now we have no choice but to do them ourselves and try to bring in some other contractor. This proposal that I got from this locating company, they will come out and they will use ground penetrating radar to physically locate all of our facilities associated with the traffic signal, all of our electrical conduit, all of any conduit runs, anything between mast arms, pedestrian signal poles, between junction boxes, and then provide us with an aerial image with all these features located on it, with distances from fixed points, so that we can then use that information to go out and mark things in the future. What we've been doing moving forward is we're really holding contractors' feet to the fire regarding providing as-built information for anybody that does any signal work. Had an issue on Fresh Road in Wamble where the contractor, we went back and forth for months with them, where they would provide, typically when they provide an as-built, it's junction box to junction box in a straight line. Well, because of other utility conflicts, I knew that wasn't the case. So we actually had them come out and do the same things. Had a locating contractor that would locate it, and then they actually put it on a plan, had surveyor there and put it on a plan and gave us accurate information. So for any new work, we're going to be doing that. But in the interim, we have 15 signals or 14 other signals that we really don't have reliable information. So I'd like to move forward with this project. Unfortunately, I don't have any money budgeted this year for this work, but I think it's important enough for us to move forward and just want to get the board's authorization to do so.
This will be plugged into our GIS system.
It can be, but what they're giving us basically is a standalone product. It's just basically a plan, and it can be an electronic plan. We can tie it to our GIS system by having if you click on the signal, it'll bring up this plan.
Yeah,
But
for long
it
term.
would be,
For going all this effort, we want to tie it into our GIS.
Yeah.
I mean, we got everything else going on next week.
Here, that's gonna,
And as you said, you're getting the as-built and you're getting, so future as-built, like when you get those for the signal, are those as-built going into the GIS? Okay, those would be then handled that way. And if someone, like especially on the border, we obviously had, we have some signals that are on our responsibility, but on the borders of telemedicine. And who owns the signal? I think it's ours, isn't it? The one I believe it is, the one at the corner of Franconia and Telemedicine, Lower South, further up Wamble Road, but that new schoolhouse, right? So, but when land development comes in, do we require an escrow for them to modify that signal so we can make sure we get the as-bills that are necessary out of that?
Yeah.
We did, okay, good. As Kevin said when he walked in, make sure your attic sale reaches about $11,000, so.
this is required to have these marked then, Doug, as well?
yes, we're obligated to mark our facilities. If we don't, then if there's an issue, if the contractor digs through our facilities, then we are liable.
Can't rely on a contractor counting and marking themselves.
Well, and even the one call law states that you basically have 18 inches on either side of your facility. So if you've got a 3-foot pipe, you essentially have 6 feet of kind of room there, the wiggle room to make sure your facilities are within your marks. You've got a 2-inch conduit. It's a little tighter window. So that's the concern. And we had an issue out at on 113 where the gas company was doing that gas main install. Or we were marking junction box to junction box. We were a little bit off. And fortunately, what they ended up hitting was an abandoned conduit that was where the mark was, where we thought the conduit was. So, and it doesn't happen a lot, but I know of at least one municipality where their facilities weren't marked or weren't marked correctly. Contractor went through them and it was about a $40,000 repair on them. municipality.
And that's what I was gonna really ask. I thank you for explaining that. So really, we run the risk of more fees, more expenses by not doing this. It would, and is this a cheaper cost than us doing that?
One time.
Exactly, as long as they're marked like, supervisors.
Any changes-
We don't want X on the road that's gonna wash away. But
Any changes, we get updated, the reference.
Yeah.
Yes, any contractor that touches any. Obviously, we're gonna make sure that we get accurate information
And once we,
moving forward.
and then once we do that. Buy them. What, buy them, that,
Well, we still have to provide the marks,
okay,
and we still have to make sure that our marks are accurate. That's why it's important for us to get measurements from fixed locations. So, not just where the junction boxes are, but actually where the conduit runs, because if it takes a circuitous route, then we need to know that. That's what with this ground penetrating radar and locating services that this company will provide. We should be able to have that information and be able to accurately mark our facilities moving forward.
Final question, just outside of this proposal, I'm fine with this proposal. How many hours a week do you have someone assigned to doing markouts?
It varies, but on average, it's probably an hour a day.
Okay,
If nothing else, it's just check. A lot of those we can, kind of just, okay, we have nothing there, we have nothing there, we have nothing there. And we're trying to get to the point where we can upload all of our facilities to the PA one call system, where then we will only get the markout notifications where we have facilities. So like in the more rural parts of the township, where we don't have storm water facilities, where we don't have traffic signals, we won't necessarily get those.
right.
But we haven't gotten to that point yet because our GIS system isn't fully populated with all of our.
You're getting, even if someone's putting a fence on their property and they call in for it, you've got to just clear that.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't want to mail off.
Yeah.
Everything.
I guess
We encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah,
Just,
and then- that's true. I guess my other question too would be more for Joe. I mean, if this wasn't in our budget, how are we looking budget wise to put something like this in there?
So we could find.
I would think as well, that's one.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I feel,
That will help.
I feel that I learned a lot just from what you were saying. You answered a lot of my questions, and in the long run, we might be saving money and valuable time with our employees as well.
There's fun. Cap.
The only obvious other question is, there are other services that provide the same thing, or, I'm guessing you looked into this one and it's a.
I have, there aren't a whole lot of companies. I mean, there are some that do it regularly. And a lot of companies would want to just provide the locating services. But with this, it's kind of a once and done, I'm looking at it, so. If we didn't do any of our locates in-house already, then that would be a different story to try and bring somebody else in, but I think this is the way to go, this company, this proposal.
Any other questions?
Great, thank you very much, that's all that I have.
Thank you, sir.
We need to make a motion.
We can make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the proposal for utility locators dated 4/12/2023 and the total amount of $11,450 for a traffic signal location per the direction of the Public Works Director.
I'll second it. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Medway.
A brief staffing update, we're getting close to the point where. Fly solo, which was then. One traffic officer back into traffic capacity, or other traffic officer. Is. So the traffic officer does go back and make sure that. He's getting another officer. Scheduling shoulder surgery. Forms. So. One traffic officer put that place, that's why. But that's fine. Things are still in function. A couple things on bus patrol, there was in April new legislation to bolster some defense or a civil issue, some exposure. The officer will now be listed as, yeah. The person, the violator will be listed as the, for whatever reason, civil language. Make the officer the defendant. So that's been fair. Because a person asking it for a hearing is actually taking action, maybe that's person, some violation. Since inception, and it's only been a few weeks, we have received 30 violations and we or issues. And this is violations sent to us. It's not all data intelligence and also human intelligence, and they consider them all valid. And we've noticed some issues that are just not picking up, like cars blocking, other school buses blocking, where the violator, there's no way they could have, seen the devices. But, we've spoken to them, we've seen some really egregious violations. So,
Is there any pattern to the location of the violation?
the ones we have issues with seem to be a lot of them are not 100 block of Main. Buses are pulling over on their shoulder to allow traffic to go by, and things that they could be doing to prevent those violations from occurring. We don't really care. I mean, what our percent? It's not a batting average for us. If it's a bad violation, it'll go through and they'll get hit for.
What I was more curious is just as you can bring it to the buses. I mean, obviously they can manipulate where they park their bus. Is there somewhere where enforcement I mean, we know when the buses are going by there, it's a specific window of time, so that have police presence to help with that, not just to rely on the.
Even before bus patrol,
Yeah.
we got a very good relationship with the PSI. Violation. Look at it,
Right.
say, well, I mean, they're pretty good at it, they do it for a living. But we can make recommendations, they're very receptive to moving the bus stop or using the bus to block. Potential violators. Can't go by anyway, but might as well block the intersection.
Right.
But with this one, I mean, it may not be a safety issue, but we're not gonna approve violations to the borderline. And that's our approach. If they're not happy with it, they can unclose. But we're finding some.
Are they complaining about the borderline ones, or are they?
No, we were told by agencies that have been doing this for a year or so. That they have a guy who will call you, but he's the guy we call to tell them what the issues were.
Okay.
And they never once brought up. Because they're saying that the. Leave over thirds.
Close on.
What's not closer to.
Oh, good, the three ain't there.
Yeah.
I think
I'll
More to what-
remember that.
more what Supervisor Canada was saying, you make a good point. If in the future we see a pattern of side street, X street that maybe it's people rushing through, I mean, there's no excuse, obviously, but we could put up a signage or something like that to say, children ahead, something like that in the future, if we see a lot of that.
Yeah. Just to prevent it rather than
Yeah.
enforce it.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you. All right, Mr. Buki, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last month of April, we had 44 permits issued. We have no zoning hearing board applications for May. A week ago, we met at the planning commission for 1 Ken Christopher Lane as additional use to change the use to a truck repair facility. Like the fire, it's going to be moving in there if they receive all the approvals. Planning commission recommended move forward with that. We also looked again at the component 4A for the Township sale of the sewer authority to PAWC instead of Next Era. And we're still working on some ordinance amendments, parking ordinance amendments, and the sign ordinance. So for your regular meeting tomorrow, you'll have for the land development projects, you'll have 110 Christopher Lane for consideration to authorize your advertisement of that conditional use hearing. And 30 Fred's Road, that's the previous 59 Fred's Road. And we have
They changed their address?
I'm
They
sorry,
changed their address?
well, it was never a true address, my understanding. The way it came about, yeah, it was given that address. It's actually the block number that the county gave to it.
No.
Somehow it found its way on the plans and official documentation. And so it just assumed that address, but we. To an even number, it's on the even side of the street. They wouldn't deliver the mail to 59.
Right.
Yep.
They didn't know what all the.
So they have an outdoor testing facility that's proposed. And it's proposed on top of existing pavement. The reason why it would be in front of you for a waiver land development is that it's actually part of the, what I call A to Z process of that company. They'll come out and they'll test their products before they ship them off site. And so that would be the area that they're testing is side of the building. So. All I have.
Excellent. Mr. Chakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the manager's report is the review of the April 5th, 2023 supervisors minutes. I thank Ms. Postman for doing this since I was out of town that day. If you had some questions or concerns, they can
Direct them there.
I'm noticing how much more thorough they were.
Double the length.
I did have one correction.
The minutes are a reflection of action.
I did have one thing I would like to address, on the resolution 2023-13. I know it's not verbatim, but I did prepare a statement that I read that I had various concerns. And I don't see any of them listed. I would just want to make sure I would be okay if you guys would let me put the statement on the minutes. But my issues that I brought up were how we recently rezoned the area and, we did that to anticipate more activity here. But my biggest issue was that I appreciate the trail and loop sidewalk. There are 14 different comments given from McMahon to consider. It wasn't discussed on the PC. I also had issues with the land development. I wanted it to not waive the preliminary final. My concerns were, it says in the minutes that my concerns were the ADA. That was only listed. I rewatched the video that's only listed as one of my 14 concerns on that. I felt that we shouldn't give the waiver to the sidewalk completely, especially, on my way over here, I saw people walking there again. That just kind of solidified that. I also brought up how we're working on sidewalks. We understand the cost. We're putting in a grant for that tomorrow night. It's all summed up in what I read. I'd be happy to pass this around to everybody, make some copies, and I'd like to have that.
We heard it. I have no problems, but it was saying, just put it, just
Sure,
put it.
I can leave this to you. Thank you. I think the other thing where it says motion passed with 4 votes of approval and 1 no, I'd also like my name to be the one that said no. I don't want my name.
I'm not as.
No worries. And
Therefore, I did not.
no worries. I didn't bring it up sooner. I read them last night. I just make sure I saw it before as well. Sure, I can even copy paste it. That way it's easier for you as well. That's the only change I had.
Okay, the next item is the agenda for tomorrow night's May 3rd Board of Supervisors meeting. First item, unfinished business, walkable letter act, feasibility study update. Stephanie Butler will be here to go over that with you. Ordinance 2023-02 to adopt the 2018 ICC International Fire Code and establish annual fire inspection program this month. Resolution 2023-16 establishing fees for the fire inspection program. Resolution 23-17 30 Fretz Road, waiver of land developments. This is, you can just discuss the machine outdoor fencing area. Resolution 2023-18 acceptance of right-of-way Yoder Road sidewalk connection project. 2023-19 authorizing submission of a grant application for 2023 DCED CFA Greenways Trail and Recreation Program for the roadside walk connection. Resolution 2023-20 authorizing submission of a grant application for the 2023 DCED Multimodal Transportation Fund. This is for the 113 Harleyville Pike relocation project. And 110 Christopher Lane conditional use application. And the final item is the approval of First Amendment to the Management Agreement for Letter Act Golf. This was requested by current, well, not Brown Golf, it's now called
Great call.
Great Life Golf. The liability for the alcohol liability for the club was liability insurance. It's under the township's name and it does not mention the authority. So some language needed to be brought into the agreement with New Life Golf, Great Life Golf, that the township was also part of that agreement opposed to the authority because the township pays for the liability insurance for the courts.
If the liquor license still in the township's name?
That's correct, and that's the reason.
Okay.
Right.
That's something that should be transferred at some point to the authority?
The wording in it makes it literally say for the recreational authority and corrects it to recreation, the township and recreation, I believe.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the actual physical liquor license is owned by the township.
Correct.
But I'm just wondering, and that was always just historically before the authority was set up, that's when the liquor license was that, does it make sense to transfer that to the authority
I mean, we can look into that.
down the road, just because the authority is responsible and that's their facility and property, so to speak?
Right,
But who owns the property?
the township.
Township owns the property, correct?
Yeah, I know it puts the name in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is just a.
Oh, no, I get that we're both covered from it, and this just raised a different issue, it's really, I have no issue with this.
But I think one of the things that did too was officially fix the name because it said recreation as opposed to recreational or vice versa. And in that, it's also explaining that they wanted to put us as part of it too, something like that. I would have to ask Andy. Yeah, but
No, all that is, I fully understand, it's more of, a liquor license is owned by an entity or a person, and we actually have, the township has no operational control of that liquor license. The recreational authority and.
But
Brown
with this
does.
amendment that is now done.
Okay, which is this,
Now both listed the authority and the township.
and the insurance will waive us from any.
in theory.
Two things I noticed on A, on the actual resolution that was written, it says FES instead of fees in there. 'Cause it's fire. And then on C, the resolution. I think it's the right of way, it says sidewalk on the resolution, WALF, not W.
You noticed that already, so
Yeah.
I'll just correct that.
No worries, I just want to point it out now
Last week,
tomorrow.
after I put it on the list, I didn't notice.
Where is the going to be?
It's in the document, I think it's somewhere near the top, it says FES. Something, I don't know, it was on the SharePoint. It's not on.
No,
it's
it's on
the
the
actual
resolution.
The actual resolution. Okay, is right on the, like, first paragraph, top, it's FES. Okay, oh, yeah, okay.
We'll find it.
The program was also missing with
Oh.
the sidewalk thing.
See program.
There was no G in program. Correct.
Okay, that's. Meeting.
Just a quick question regarding the sidewalk. So has there been any effort to communicate with those properties? Township project yet or no?
I believe
I addressed that last time, and Stephanie said she would make contact in between now and then, so I don't know, but I know that that's what was addressed.
I just want to make sure it happened.
I'm with you.
That one tree out there, I mean, it falls dead where the sidewalk has to go. I don't know how. You. It's on somebody's radar.
okay, the next item is the community facilities feasibility study. Just last month, the board asked Boyle to amend the feasibility study proposal to include some other additional possible community uses, including the senior center, scouting, scout cabin, the Y child care, and possible library location. They have updated that to also include to look at the public works facilities to, for a possible keeping the current public facility in place, doing renovations, and a possible addition to that building would be another possibility as well. They do have those options in here. The fee schedule, they kept the 15,000 for the public works facility concept, with an additional 20,000 for the community center concept. So that would total go to $35,000 with an option for engagement for 5,000 for a total of 40,000. Move forward with that.
Has anybody spoken? I know we talked about it last time, but has anybody reached out to the senior
Well, I
center,
think that-
specifically the library? I know it's.
I know Doug has spoken to them about that.
Early on in the.
Yeah.
But I mean, if-
Talking about. Something.
I know.
I mentioned it, just to get it.
Why?
And my reasoning is just as we said last time, again, what if we were to approach them and they said, well, no, we wouldn't even need that. We would need this, or actually we would go this way. I don't want to spend the money of saying, hey, this is what they
But
need.
this is what you're- this is where you're at.
I understand.
They're gonna be involved in this process, I think, is down to.
I know you-
I did reach out to the library. There's a foundation board. They've done a feasibility analysis of what they need for a new facility. So we got some information back on just general square footage things along that line so that they understand what, if they're gonna move, or if they're even staying where they're at, what is the, is it a 10,000 square foot building or is it a 30,000, like a 30, I think it was like 28 or 35,000 square foot building, somewhere in that range, if memory serves. So there was some initial conversation that way. And they've been, as you know, I've been talking to some of the people on the foundation board as they're trying to work through this process of locating a potential replacement. This has been unfortunately a chicken and an egg. Without knowing where they can go, they're having a tough time identifying what to do. And then there's nothing to fundraise around because they don't have a plan for where they're going. So it's sort of been, how do we move the ball a little bit on this? And I was looking at this as an opportunity to move that ball a little bit, to give something to rally around as a possibility. Doesn't mean it's going to go here. Doesn't mean we have to build it that way. And it could end up being something that would be, if the library is not interested, then you look at it, scaling it to what does the senior center, the Y, and the community center with its uses need over there too.
Understand that. My thing was just saying, I think, and I talked about it last month, so I'm not going again, letting them know we might have found out even more information, by more I know they're going to do a study to see where they could use the building.
But this is that.
Understood. They didn't know about this as of last month. That's what we were saying. We had early on discussion.
Well, they know that, right, but this process is to include them in the discussion. So
Understood.
this is doing exactly what you're asking.
Understood. I'm saying that we're paying money then to go and ask them this, and we could have
Well,
asked them
because-
because we found out that we had to do something. Hypothetically, it'd be interesting to hear what
Well,
they're
there's
taking.
another element.
Understood. And we discussed this last.
So if the board inclined to move forward with the feasibility study, would that also be inclined to go forward with the $5,000 option for public forum?
Yes. We can motion to move this
I
forward.
would.
Make a motion to approve the March 10th as amended oil construction management proposal to include all aspects for a total of $40,000.
Seconded. Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Let's get them going. Thank you.
Late last week, I had conversations with DVRPC representatives regarding a plan that they're putting together to submit a grant for Five County area for with the Federal Highway Administration for installation of electric charging facilities in the whole area. This is a substantial amount of money that they're putting out there, the federal government's putting out there for the installation of these facilities to allow for the installation and to hopefully be put in places where people who don't have a single home or a home where they can actually have their electric vehicle charged at their house, if they live in an apartment complex of some sort. So he had asked if we, had any thoughts on places out here, because we don't have a lot of charging stations. I think the only two in the township at this point are Giant. I think so what they were looking for again is places that possibly people could walk to from apartment complex where they could charge their vehicle. And have access, One of the places Doug and I talked a little bit about this, Holly and I have talked a little bit about this, is possible Rock Park, because it's so close to the apartment buildings downtown. A lot of those folks could walk there, and also maybe on this campus here, a couple of charging stations. This would be a 20% match. Good thing about this is that the equipment that the DVRPC would look to contract with a provider of the inspect facilities, and those facilities would be part of the match for the whole program. And any site preparation work for the township would be part of the match as well. So they say that between 25, depending on the situation, between 25 to 50,000 for the installation of these. So ours would be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 match. Some of that would be met by the equipment costs. Some would be met by the site work, and anything over and above that, we would provide a cash.
So who's responsible for running we would be responsible for running a stub of electric to the location?
Well, we might, we don't, I
Okay.
mean, there's still some issues that are not clearly fleshed out. I did put a letter saying that we would be interested in doing this, and if you notice the last line of the letter, there's a lower, Belford Township understands that agreement, the funding application, not a binding agreement. So if it became apparent that this was going to be a much more costly affair than we anticipated, then we would not have to follow. Okay. But I think it's probably something a good idea, again, especially since there's a number of apartment complexes right in town, try to get some availability for.
When I first joined the board, and I know, Joe, you might remember, the first things that residents reached out to me for had a lot of requests for this. I know we discussed it a few times, what kind of options we could do through pandemic, kind of slowed it down a little bit, but I'm all for it. I think this was before the Giant ones, but I've had residents reach out, these 4 or 5 different residents. Literally first month I was in there, you guys need this. So I think it is something that we should jump on. Especially if we have an opportunity.
Okay, I will finalize this letter and get it on.
Great, full steam ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we did
Tell Sean I
receive,
wasn't supportive of it.
what's that?
Tell Sean I was not supportive of it. My brother's awesome.
Wait.
Andy Field submitted his letter of resignation from the planning commission effective, I believe, in June. So not immediate, but the board wants to start thinking of filling that planning commission vacancy.
I just wonder, I mean, I know we've had some people who applied for some other things. Number of people who applied to be a supervisor, and we had asked if an opening came up, if they might be interested, in another position. Do we reach out to them? I believe there was someone for the park board too. I think there was a woman who had some significant planning experience that had applied. I know I had sent an email. It's a guy who was one of our elected auditors who had John Kearns who had. So I don't know if we just put a notice out that we're accepting applications, and just maybe reach out to that list and just see who may be interested, so that we have our
At least start
list to pull from.
Yeah, I think, okay, if we do have a list, it's great too, but like you said, we should utilize a constant contact, let people in township know we have an opening and submit your resumes.
That's what I was just saying. You
Right, in
ask
addition to
for
that, yeah.
You ask for people to respond and give us.
Make
the
sure we do it
information.
via constant contact any way we can get out there.
Website, page and.
I will say that when the park board had numerous numerous applicants. We ended up choosing the one that applied first.
Good.
Because that was the protocol in the township. So I don't know if planning commission will be handled differently. Like you're going to be looking at qualifications, but when it came down to it for the park board, Kent will remember that it was basically the person who applied first. It had nothing to do with what your qualifications looked like. It was who applied first. And that's who we pointed.
But I think
So
also,
if there
there was,
That's fine.
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure of that and how we, and are there qualifications that we will look for specifically for that
well, I
person?
think we deemed everybody to be qualified, all things like that.
Yeah.
So in the absence of other factors, everybody had reasonable qualifications, so then how do you decide? Whereas if someone stands out, I think that gives you an opportunity to visit that differently this time.
I agree. I think every resident, fits the qualification, your resident, whatever the qualifications may be. And while I appreciate everybody reaching out, I can't say for sure that if the first person reaches out and has no experience, the second person has much more adequate experience, I might lean that way. Again, I'm grateful for everybody, but I don't want to say for now. that
If it's a letter's place.
Yeah, it's not, I don't want to say that, I'll just grab the first one. I agree.
And I did, put in place, a list, we're reviewing our current interest rate, our current banking situation. And we got some recommendations from another local bank, with substantially higher interest rates. We are gonna go back and talk to our current bank, as well as maybe talk to, another bank that's in the town to see if we can get some competitive rates. We had asked our current bank, and they said that these were the best rates that they had, so if they don't change, obviously, then, would recommend we change the sum, whether it be, Univest, who we have the numbers from, or if we go to BD and ask them to put something together and see what their numbers are like, but I think there's,
Yeah, I'm just surprised Harleysville wouldn't have a relationship manager other than the branch manager who would handle an account of the size that we have, and maybe that's who we have to approach. Maybe they don't, and maybe then they'll lose the funds. I mean, that's, yeah.
so I'll be moving forward with that and have some for you.
When did you talk to them? I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It may have been a month or two ago.
Okay. I'm just curious.
But we'll get some updates. Sometimes it changes. Yeah. When you decide that you're actually leaving.
Perhaps
Yeah.
there comes the Jesus moment. It's in their future.
The cable company.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's not even close.
We're not even the same zip code.
I know. I mean, we were looking dumbfounded.
As I said, I mean, I know, like, my kids have checking accounts that are getting better returns than that at Harleysville. It's based on usage, but it's just, that's bizarre. It's, yeah. Yeah.
Senior. Anyway, okay.
Like,
Do we have a need for executive session?
Mike, from curiosity, did Velocity Ventures submit their thing to the planning commission yet? The staff, the trail?
The trail plan is already, yeah, that was submitted. Be a part of the plan development.
When is that gonna go through to the planning commission?
That has not been scheduled yet in front of the planning.
They said that they were gonna schedule that. It's part of the reason why I think we should be cautious of preliminary final land development. Hopefully I go through soon. That's all.
Motion to adjourn. I made a motion.
Second. Moving second. Our work is done here.
Orthodox.